Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from somewhere in the Bavarian Alps. It's a black and white set. I've got the Universal movie logo prop flying around. It's 1933, of course, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really talking to you from the Extreme Studios just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Pinos Palace, and I have from the Great Midwest 1RDV. And we are talking about The Invisible Man. RDV, I got to sit there and say, I've seen this a few times in my life. I've watched it again recently. I find this film, honestly, I'm not going to say it's the funnest or the creepiest of the Universal original horror movies that you and I have been talking about here during the Halloween month. But I think honestly, I think legitimately you can make an argument it's kind of one of the scariest. I don't think there's too much of a camp element to it by today's standards, maybe. But I want to know, is this a first watch for you? Because this is a pretty damn fun movie.
Yeah, this is the first watch for me. And for people wondering, yes, it's just me. I'm a boy. That's my dog. That's what it looks
I got
like
your meat right here, sir.
That's gross.
It's big brown, and you need two hands with it, sir.
Oh man! So, like I said, this is the first watch for me. Claude Rains it's my first time watching him in a movie. Watched him in The Wolfman about 3 times in that movie. I never liked his performance in that. I also seen him in Casablanca. Like I said, I'm not the hugest Casablanca fan, but I thought that this is his best role.
He's maniacal in it.
He is. I love when people can do this. Having watched Hollow Man many years ago, first with Kevin Bacon, now they're more of appreciation for that movie and this movie because it is just bonkers, off the wall. You met Claude Rains right away. He's already become invisible. You know.
Yeah, no origin story, no accident in the fucking lab. Screw that.
No. So, and how you learn about the experiment is just through one of the other doctors that he worked for. Because Claude Rains' character was a lab assistant for another doctor, along with this other guy who basically, I think his name's Kentworth. Yeah, Kemp. Yeah. Dr. Henry Travers, Dr. Cranley is the guy they worked for. And so through Dr. Travers that you are I just butcher his name with both his real name. No, Dr. Cranley. Dr. Cranley, nice kind old man, really good actor in there. And he says, like, well, I noticed that one of the formulas, is missing, and one of the side effects makes you go crazy. So that it fills in the gap because when you're first introduced to Claude Rains as Invisible Man, he's walking into this inn. A nice little black and white town. It's in the middle. It's about to getting close to winter. He's walking in there, and everyone looks at him. He sits down, and they see that the manager's like, the first areas, people talk. They're like, oh, he's probably a escaped convict, or he's on the run, because the rooms they rent are usually for the summer, not for the winter. So as well kept up. Mm-hmm. And he goes up into the room, and he's basically the woman won't leave him alone. He just wants to just be left alone, quiet, And she brings up his food, and I love it. And like I said, the lady who is like the innkeeper, what is her name? Trying to look up her name on the IMDb, but Jenny Hall is Mrs. Hall. Because her and Mr. Hall own this place. Una O'Connor is the actress. She is right off the bat just so over the top, annoying, demeaning to her husband, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't like this guy because he's rude to her. You want to go kick him out, And the husband goes out there, because after Claude Rains' character tells her to shut up and get out of there, leave me alone because he has a lab equipment. She's trying to create a cure.
Mm-hmm.
For his ailment, with the lab equipment he had stolen from from the other guy's Craney's lab and stuff, and then the husband shows in there and says, look, you gotta leave, because your money ran out, he's like, the money will be there, don't worry, and so the guy basically gets knocked down the stairs by him, and after he starts going crazy, they show up there, he's like, oh. I love the whole. They get the constable. They come up there, and the constable. He only got the billy club, no gun. I thought that was just kind of weird.
Well, think about the time,
1941, though, people did have guns, though.
Well,
if
it's war and it's wartime.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where we don't know that well, so it's hard to say. I think sometimes in these situations, to your point, especially in a small town, you think they would as being hunters and fishermen, right? Trying to
Yeah.
still be on farm base. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to say about this beginning scene here, because the movie's barely over an hour long, is
Yeah.
I didn't realize at first once the movie started and he gets in there, they've got a guy playing a little ragtop style piano. Everyone's just kind of drinking and having their own way. The people are familiar. So of course, when somebody comes in, you don't know who the hell they are. Everything comes to a complete stop, and he wants the room and all that. And I thought, I don't know why, and I was trying to consciously think of what particular scene here led to it. But this whole thing, just the way he comes in, gets the room to himself, goes up there, and nobody's saying a damn word. We've seen this repeated in like American Werewolf in London comes to mind immediately. I just go, there's something just kind of menacing about this. By menacing, I just mean it's disturbing. There's no yucks, there's no goofs. And like as a former landlord myself, any tenant that you have that's a bum, you want to kick him out. What does the tenant do? They assault you because you go, this is not a nice dude. And this movie's mature in that way. It's not childish at all. And I do appreciate that because the tone is set early for this.
Morania, it says a 1933 film, so it has nothing to do with World War II. This is after World War I believe, right?
You mentioned World War II, but I'm just talking.
Yeah. I thought World War II. Yeah. So,
yeah.
This is 19. I thought it was because I mentioned 1941 was the Wolfman. So this is 1933. This is before World War II. So it was kind of interesting to see that like no one had guns until the actual cops came over from the other town over after there was a murder. Then they all had guns, but the town folk, as they said, like this was so great because Claude Rains, he's like, he's like, you want to see why, you're so curious to see why a bandages. Well, how would we ought to see? Takes his bandages off and everything off, and he's just dancing. And he's just got his shirt on. He's like, woohoo, and I laugh because the first thing you know, he's taking his clothes off. He's flopping in the wind.
Oh yeah,
he's jumping up and down in this cold night, and he goes around the town. He escapes. They open the window and he knocks people down, and everybody's freaking out because they see like the clothes, they see the up, and he's just making noise. And the one lady, the innkeeper, is just screaming out the top of her lungs again. I was like, can you just take her out? Because throughout the movie, you go back to her, she's doing the same screaming again, and I said he ends up murdering the constable there, the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has that song he sings. What was that? The Nuts and May rhyme. Was he skipping down just the pants? I love it.
It's supposed to be funny, but I think a big part of the fact is they talk about the drugs screwing with his head. So the dude's going crazy. He's not like, hey, let me be a goof and scare you.
No, but he was going crazy, but he's also annoyed, severely annoyed, and you're invisible. What's the biggest thing is like I can take over, I can be anything, I can kill anybody, no one can find me, whatever.
Yeah.
So he's skipping down, he's leaving town. He says, "Here we come gathering nuts in May, nuts in May, nuts in May. Here we come gathering nuts in May on a cold and frosty morning." And you see the pants, the arch going up and down. I love how they did everything with the wire work, the pants, the clothing and stuff when he's invisible. And I just that scene there, that 19-second clip of him, he's just kind of skipping down. You just see the pants coming out, and a lady sees it, she freaks like, oh! It's like it's. Then he, meanwhile, his beloved, played by the Gloria Stuart, who I believe didn't we say? We're talking about that she was married to Richard Denning. I thought we're talking about that.
Yeah, there's a woman.
Or is it
I'm not sure, but there's a woman here that I believe is supposed to be the woman that you see in the Titanic, the old lady, Miss Rose.
Yeah,
that's her as a young actress.
Oh, okay. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, the other movie was Creature Black Lagoon and The Wolfman. This is a different lady. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Died in 2010. So she's his beloved, and she's like, she goes to the doctor, and then she's like, who actually is her father in this movie. For Craney, she goes up to Dr. Craney. She's like, he's like, so I worry about it. And she's kind of sad. She's in despair. And then you got this guy Kemp, who's a total prick, has the hots for her, even has a painting of her in his freaking house, and she wants nothing to do with him. She's in love with Claude Rains' character. So when he got so after all this, after Claude Rains' character, basically, kills the cop and leaves in the middle of the little, like, they're having a little powwow meeting, like, talking about, like, oh, there's no invisible man, you just made this up, and then, like, he gets like, invisible man, like, you don't believe in me, and he just strangles him, and then he leaves, skips to the thing. He goes to Kemp. He's like, Kemp, he's like, he's like, what? He's like, it's me, Kemp, and you're going to be my bitch for the rest of the movie. You're going to do what I say. I just kind of love it. He's like, and Kemp's like, what the heck? Eventually, Kemp calls the police, but he also calls the doctor, Cheney or whatever it is, and Chanley, and he's like, come over here, and then Flora comes over with her father, and she wants to talk to Claude Rains, but Claude Rains, doesn't want to talk to her at first, but then he's like, then you learn that she almost has he sees her outside, and he has almost, she has almost a calming effect on his addled, scrambled brain for a moment, and so
a woman can have that effect on you.
Yes, yeah, hormones, bro. Clouds the mind. But so then the cops show up and everything. Like I said, like they start chasing him, and and he says before he leaves, he told the kid, he's like, "You are a coward, sibling coward. I'm going to kill you tomorrow at 10 p.m. exact. You won't see me coming."
Which is kind of terrifying in a way. You're like, yeah, right. And it's like, no, really, you're not going to.
Yeah. So he leaves, and then and Kemp's like, I was like, you gotta hide me. Well, don't worry, we'll put you into the police quarters apartment, and then we'll take you, escort you out, the back of the door, so you do size the cops, so you won't know it's you. And then so when Kemp leaves the police station next day night now, and he I love how even before this, like how the police figure out how they make sure they sweep the room, make sure that Claude Rains isn't in the room. They have this rope, and they go from one side to the other side to sweep.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I love that. So that's kind of cool how they determine that way. They close the window and everything. That way they can plot in secret. How they're going to catch them. So, but Claude Rains basically had left inside the back of the car with Kemp, and he basically strangles Kemp. He's like, "Don't worry, Kemp. It'll be over real soon. You sniveling coward." And he basically releases the brake, and then he goes over the cliff, and you see the Model T explodes. I'm just laughing my ass off.
I mean, that's about probably the best they could do at the time.
but I'm just saying, I love that part. It's like because Kemp. Well, I mean, you're supposed to. I guess they want you to feel bad for Kemp, but being Kemp always came off as a creep to Flora. So I mean, so. I laugh out loud. He's like, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna kill him!" And he's like, "Happy landing." Pretty much, always want to say it's like might as well say "Happy landing" is like Bugs Bunny, because he goes off the cliff and the car explodes.
Yeah.
And then the cops then get a report for this farmer. They're like, "There's heavy breathing coming from my barn," because he's in the hay bay because it's cold winter, and it starts snowing. Yeah. And this is how the downfall of basically Claude Rains' character. But before that, the cops, because they expected Rains to come to the police station, so they had on the wall, they had people armed with spray paint guns and stuff. Figure they could cover him in lacquer. That way you'll see him. This cat knocks over something, and the one bumbling idiot, because there was one bumbling idiot cop. I thought that was funny. He gets upset. He freaks out. He's here. He's like, he's not even there. They're freaking out. But so yeah, they catch him because they light fire to this guy's barn. I mean, if I was the guy in the barn, I'd be like, "What? No! I was just kidding. I don't have the money to pay to rebuild my barn. Are you freaking kidding me?"
Well, I mean, that's just obviously a key component to just somebody that has to live off the land, really. So you don't want to. Yeah. It's like you're it's amazing. I think the modern equivalent to be on a smaller scale would be how a lot of people have ring devices for the doors or some sort of camera setup and all that. And you see all these things on TikTok or YouTube or Shorts or whatever when you go online onto your Twitter feed about people throwing packages or porch pirates stealing stuff and all that. Well, if the law can sit there and say, hey, that's evidence. I need everything that you've got there. We're going to go confiscate it. And you're like, what the hell? So even back then, people didn't really want, government types and entities coming and taking stuff. And I think all that's interesting because it's hard for us to imagine what it's like, like Mariah's saying in there, most towns that have to deal with criminals, they had to deal with more like chicken thieves and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, there's that old street justice kind of thing with mobs that was really apparent. We see that in Frankenstein.
Because we had the Great Depression going in the early 30s. I don't know what Britain had going in the 30s. I imagine it was a
I want to mention that a little bit about because it's the thing with H.G. Wells writing this, late 1800s is Britain. You could probably look at as one of the first really, there's a lot of societies, they've all evolved, have their own contributions, not to cite anybody, but in terms of the Western world, with the Industrial Revolution, you had the greatest concentration of wealth and knowledge. And so London was basically exploding with all this at the time, and Britain conquered a great part of the world at that time. And yeah, other civilizations had too, but they always fall apart. And people can argue why and everything too, but usually it has to do with central government control. And I think the thing that was interesting about Britain at the time, especially with these people, you take a look at H.G. Wells. He was a socialist, but socialism was only starting to get formed at that time. You could talk about it turning into communism. I'm certainly not a historian, so people can argue the semantics all they want, but you basically had people that went, wait a minute, how do we produce so much for the rest of the world and keep it in track? And then people started saying, what does it mean to be lower class, upper class? What does it mean about child labor laws and all that? So you had an investigation into the human condition. And with all this great advances in sciences coming up in the 1600s and 1700s, a lot of it from Germany, a lot of it in Britain as well, you would get people like H.G. Wells. And if you think about his stuff like The Time Machine, War of the Worlds, Island of Dr. Moreau, he's one of the earlier guys. And I mentioned, of course, American literature like Edgar Allan Poe. You had people that basically survived on the dime of other people. And then when they could make a living because there was actual income people could spend on stuff to buy magazines, that's when you really started getting a big burst of this, right? And I think it's interesting because a lot of what was going on there too is what influenced people's ideas about what's right and wrong and how does science fuck up the human condition. And this is one of the things that we've only talked about briefly with science fiction movies here in Extreme Movie Show, because when you get into the 50s and 60s, it's pure Malthusian, what they call resources versus human population and this and that, and it gets into all sorts of stuff. But going back to here, this is kind of what it's all about, how it affects things. And I think H.G. Wells is one of those guys that influenced a lot of people. And he's just kind of interesting, the fact that you had a guy that could come up with these kind of ideas. What does it mean to be in a world where you can't be seen? What could you get away with? Would you be a normal human? You wouldn't. This guy's not a superhero.
No,
he's really a villain, basically.
Although they try to turn him in, like later in the comic books, to try to make the Invisible Man like a good guy and stuff,
But we see this in societies, speaking of Halloween, of stories. Children's stories or anything like that at all are meant to scare the shit out of you and are evil and brutal because it's society's way of keeping your ass in check so you won't do something stupid. And no matter what culture you're in, they involve in certain tales. And I think that's interesting. They get dumbed down, and we commercialize it here in America a lot, but that's what America did.
You're speaking of the Grimm fairy tales.
Any of them in any culture, they all have similarities. But the thing is America, this little country that got started a little bit before Britain, because Britain had been around a long time, took the best of certain worlds, and literally it's a unique situation. The only time there's ever been a greater concentration of wealth and growth in terms of everything was here in America. So yeah, you had instability in the world with the Great Depression, with the Austrian guy getting whacked in the early 1900s. And so all this stuff influenced Wells. Now, do we give a shit about in the film? No, but it's pertinent because a lot of these things, that was a big deal. War of the Worlds. What's that? Alien invasion. Is that communism? Is that another country?
Getting back to
read a lot into it. No, but that's exactly what it is. We talk small town dynamics, right? This is nothing different than what Stephen King would do a generation or two later, writing about small towns and everybody knows everybody else's business. We see that in every movie too. That's a part of human nature. It's not going to go away.
So the way they capture him, basically they lit fire to the barn, and he runs out in the snow. They shoot him. He ends up being held in custody. He's dying from his wounds. He's in the bed. They got him in there. He wants to see Flora. Flora goes in. She talks to him. As the serum is leaving his body, he starts to become visible again. And the way they do this is so cool. Like, with the skeleton, it's slowly like the layer of a layer of this. I guess like the film when I did it, and he goes visible again, and then he dies. But he's also kind of like sane towards the end as he's dying too, because the serum's leaving his body. Overall, like I said, this is a very, very fun movie, and like I said, for some reason people like the Wolfman better. I always thought this was much more entertaining.
Well, again, it may be more entertaining, but we're not rooting for the guy. Again,
honestly, I was, because the villagers were just complete assholes.
How are they assholes? You got a stranger come in, and you got a guy not paying bills. He's got very odd behavior. He sticks out from the norm as a group, so automatically you're considered an enemy.
So basically, first of all, even when he was paying, she was rude to him. She didn't like him, so he said, "I just want to be left alone. Can I have peace and quiet?" And don't. And then the way she treated her husband, like I said, that annoyed the heck out of me. The town whispering, and says like, "Oh yeah, he's a murder victim." So they all go up there. I said, now he was kind of, like I said, there wasn't really anybody to root for, whether him or the townsfolk, because they were both a bunch of jerks. Like I said, I didn't like either one of them. I said for anarchy reasons, this is he murdered about 2-3 people, I think, in this.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if you had if he wasn't crazy and didn't murder anybody, I probably wouldn't be as entertaining.
Exactly. He has to do that for this to have anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like I said, I had a feeling he was going to die in the end before I even got to it. This is the first watch for me. But I still liked his character. I still laugh at Kemp's death because he got his just desserts, Like I said, it's an interesting movie to watch. I said it's entertaining. The Wolfman is like, I've seen it 3 times now. And every time I watch it, it's pretty much like, you get bit by a werewolf, you're cursed.
Mm-hmm.
This was more fresh, entertaining for me for the first watch. Now, maybe when I watch the second time, maybe I won't like it as much.
Yeah,
but
that's fair enough.
But I just love it. The way you look at the picture at the left of us, the bandages, and how he has to wear special glasses. He has to wear a false nose. He has to wear gloves up. But when he starts taking off, the way they did everything in this movie, it was shot beautifully with the clothing on the wires, how they made it look like it actually was invisible. Claude Rains' performance and maniacal laughter and talking and all that stuff it was such more like energetic to me. Where the Wolfman was kind of like, I had too many people in the cast, I felt. And no, it just got to the point where I don't know. It's just like, I understand the tragedy of the Wolfman. If I'm going to watch the Wolfman, I'm going to watch the better one with Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro. I thought that was much better.
It's certainly underrated, I would say.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that.
We reviewed it on this channel. It said, like, seeing that, I was like, man, like that one clicked more with me. Like, I'll give him credit for like the Wolfman to soundstage, but but the whole thing was messed up with the whole wolf sequence stuff. How does the guy is a full wolf, but Lon Chaney's character doesn't turn into a wolf? Like I just like I said, there were so many inconsistencies with that movie. That's where this one was just straight to the point,
Well, they've also had 2 generations at least to kind of fill in any blanks if they think there were, right?
Well, the Wolfman was after this movie. Yeah.
Right. I'm just.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like they could have learned from this movie and like, okay, let's do this, But hey, like I said, they're all off of some kind of like folklore stuff of this. This is like this just was like a new science fiction, if you're invisible. Then I guess the series they brought back more. It wasn't him. There was Return of the Invisible Man, but it wasn't him. But they kept it like in like the family though. But it wasn't like they weren't like, how to say it. The third, I think it was the third one or the second one, where it was. He had the same last name as Claude Rains' character, but it wasn't like their. I think it was a descendant or uncle. Like they just kept passing the serum down. Like Griffin, it was always a Griffin.
Here, son, take this. Yeah. I'm dead.
So one of them actually used it to serve during World War II to help out. He was a spy. They did that one. You know, so as like I said, they kept bringing the serum back, but they didn't want to have it like because this guy's dead. They say this guy had no children, so they had to go with an uncle gets it, you know, the brother or whatever, you know, and gets a serum. Or it's just like I got the point where my point is Universal started muddying the waters.
Oh yeah,
movie.
money, absolutely, of course.
Same with the Wolfman. Wolfman reads Frankenstein. So I'm really curious to see the Bride of Frankenstein being a direct sequel to the first one, how well it is, you know.
Yeah, and to kind of finish up, we talked a little bit before over the past few weeks with some of these Universal ones, how there's a alternate set of a lot of these from the British side of it, Hammer horror films, and of course other countries have some of their own vampire type movies on because they saw, you know what, people seem to like this sort of stuff, and I think Invisible Man was a little bit ahead of its time in terms of the science fiction aspect to it, rather than just folklore like the Wolfman, right? So it is different. It's a different vibe. I'll give you that, and I do think it's a bit more intense. So I think it's an enjoyable film. I'm glad for your first watch you enjoyed it. It's pretty damn good. I mean, it just won't go away. You know what I'm saying? These are good standards for all that. Other than Nosferatu, which I think was a silent movie, there wasn't a lot of, I would say, horror out there like this, unless it was just a Goon or something like that, or the Mummy, which nobody seems to like anymore. But it's just it's a good movie. It's really worth seeing.
Picture and I, we watched the Boris Karloff movie, Mummy movie, and like I said, it was a one and done for me. I really don't want to go back and watch it again. I wasn't a fan of it. It was that was just like, it just wasn't like, I don't know. If I'm gonna watch a Mummy movie, I'm watching the Brendan Fraser one. More action, more adventure. So, but I want to bring up our poll. We've had a poll going since last Tuesday, and this poll is basically not this Sunday, or the next going coming up, but it's basically what we're gonna record offline probably for you and upload on the channel. Because so right now we have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde at 25% of the vote. We also have Bride of the Frankenstein, 1935, is at 35%. And in the lead right now, surprisingly, is The Hunchback of Notre Dame at 40%. A couple days ago, I looked at this poll, and you had The Bride and the Hunchback were tied for a while.
Bots, I tell you, bots. People want a romance.
So, because next Sunday will be Dracula. That's our monster movie. So we're gonna wrap it up with some offline recorded ones. So out of those three, whatever wins will be an offline recording we'll upload. So if you Bride of Frankenstein people, you want Bride of Frankenstein, you better vote for that, because Hunchback he's got a hunchback head start, I guess.
Oh, God, that's just painful to hear. Even more so to carry.
Yeah, he's carrying that hump, and it's just like, man,
what hump?
Imrania, Jekyll Hyde, man, I want Jekyll Hyde too, but I mean, you gotta give the people what they want.
Yeah. Which means Tuesday night we'll be giving everybody the latest episode of Tulsa King. Doing very well here on the Extreme Movie Show.
Which will be ending soon as well, I think.
Yeah.
Old Man, we just reviewed that. It's on the channel. The episode 8 is on next week, I think. But
correct.
Yeah, the season finale. And then I gotta say it. Yeah, we're gonna lose one show that we're reviewing, and then probably start doing another one. All depends what's going on. But definitely gonna do some record some movies and get them offline here and upload them for you guys.
All right, there you guys have it. Invisible Man, 1933 with RDV on the first watch. Fun movie. Go check it out. That's your duty as a horror film fan to check out some of the classic originals. And if you think they suck, I think you get a basis for how things have developed over the years and compare it and realize it too. So looking forward to getting into Tulsa King on Tuesday. Good night now.
Later, guys. Remember, stay extreme.